appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you. All right, I don't mind being here since I come a lot.
Yeah,
I'll pass these around to look at. What we're going to do first is make some wooden eggs. And these are made just from scraps of pretty nice looking wood, if you can find it. This one's redwood burl. That's some sort of piece of pecan. I think that's an ebony, striped ebony. And this is just soft maple, and that's colored. Now that's what I want to show you how to try to do also is marbleize them a little bit.
Can I have this one?
No. You can always give all the eggs you want. See, I've been making a lot of them, and I plan to give them away to all the grandkids and stuff for Easter. But you know, when you got nothing else to do in the shop and you feel like doing something, you can make a couple eggs in no time. You know, keep your scraps and just put them in. It's good practice. And let them lay. So what I usually do is start with something bigger than about 1 3/4 is the minimum you'd want. 3 inches long between centers, and it'll explain in this handout I put out there. So, just turn the wood down to 1 5/8. That's the size of the egg. In particular, how do you adjust this for faster? Oh, there it is. Not familiar with this light. This wood I'm using here is poplar, because I happen to have it. You can use any wood actually. You just size it to 1 5/8 is what we do. And 1 5/8 fits inside of this jig perfectly. In fact, 1 5/8 is about the size of a large egg if you actually measure them. It's not too critical on the diameter, except in the center part of the egg, because the ends are going to be turned down. Then I made these templates. It's described in that article also. I left my pencil somewhere, but I have this. And I marked the egg, the length of the egg, which is the longest portion of it. And then again, I'll take the ends down. Really quite easy. And you know immediately when an egg's not the right shape, because it doesn't look right. You keep pecking away at it. You'll go through a few. It's hard sometimes to get the egg to look just right. Just what I wanted it to do.
You meant that all along.
Yeah, I have to do that all along. There's various pieces of these templates, but I like to use this. It's about half the egg, or not quite, and I just like to see where I am. I get rid of this now because for me I end up getting too many gouges with it. If I was Jerry, I'd use the skew for that. But I have. Seems like I make more accidents sometimes with the skew than on things like that than it's worth. That's not too bad for the basic shape. I'll slow it down just some. I sometimes use the skew to make it a little smoother. I don't like the sand a lot, so. Not too bad. What you want to do is sand everything except the ends to shape. That's not too bad. Trying to cut through some grits. I think this process could be used to make other things too, other than just eggs. Things that you can mostly turn between centers. And then do the ends. I usually just take them to like 320. And then hit it with a piece of that 3M Scotch-Brite. Just to kind of polish it some. That's the basic shape of the egg.
Now you turned that
Dovetail? Tenon, yeah.
Okay.
I turned the tenon. After I glued in that piece to give it some strength, some body there.
All right.
Any coupling you can find, or a
Right.
reducer of some sort. See if it's running about true, close enough. And I kind of take the egg now, and I always tend to do the biggest end first for whatever reason. And to get it nice and straight in there, just bring it up to the center.
Just making this look simple. See?
It is usually actually. After you do one, it's easy. The first one you fumble. Everybody does on the first one. And then what I'll do is maybe, once it's in there, I'll just give it a little, and you just tighten it up, and it's really nice. They will come out though, if you get a catch. But you know, seldom. It's never happened. But it'll clamp pretty good, and if you made your egg too small, just take some tape and wrap it around it, or paper. I usually use the blue tape if I make it too small and I don't want to throw it away. Need some oil. And then I have two templates again. And this top one, this one is for the big end of the egg. and that's for the other end. So really, if you ever make these from that diagram, I think you only need the middle one, the middle size when you're doing it, and this one. I wouldn't even build this one, or this partial one here on the bottom. Except this is kind of good to mark the length of the egg, but you can just scratch it and have it. And then you'd only need one piece to drop and loose. Oh, I'm going to start over again. I find to take most of that off, it's better to have the tailstock up there. You just try to turn most of that off. It also helps center it when you give it a push like that. Yeah, I found that. And I've also found that if I don't have the tailstock up there, and I'm cutting that little nibbin off, or whatever we call it, it sometimes will loosen the egg up where it'll want to come out. So it makes it really easy to finish the end of the egg. And that's really about it, to finish the end. That's why I like to do as much as I can when it's between centers, and then you only got to mess with the end a little bit. I think when you first start doing them, you takes you too long to try to get that perfect shape, and then you end up with a small egg. If you use poplar, it really doesn't make any difference. End up with a robin's egg, you can paint it blue. There you go. Yeah. Paint it blue. It just burnishes the wood to be kind of smooth. That egg isn't the best shape, I can see, but that's all right. I suppose chickens lay bad eggs.
Yeah.
Those are the ones they break for egg beaters.
You know why they lay them?
Why?
They drop them and break.
Yeah, it's true.
Exactly.
Oh.
Not gonna stop it.
Get into one of the chicken across the road.
Yeah.
If you ever do this again, Vern, you need to learn all the chicken.
I wouldn't
So
know.
there's one I saw the other day, is two chickens on each side of the road, and one hollers to the other, "How do you get the other side?" He says, the other one, he says, "You are on the other side." I thought that was pretty funny. I've heard a lot of them, but I never remember them. But that was just a recent one, that's why I remember.
You want to leave that up there?
No, I should have left. I just want to see if it's running fairly true. Sometimes even though you bring that center up, and it's not particularly true. Try it again.
Slow down.
You know what it is? It's a different, the switch is in a different spot. You can also do that. Oh, that's perfect. Much better. I found that if you don't have that center in there and you're trying to cut that off, sometimes it wants to push that egg and it will rotate in there, and it'll usually you can recover from it. I found it's just easier to bring the tailstock up to the egg. You don't really need a lot of tools. Just these two, you can do most everything with the egg. And if you like to use
skill.
Where's Jack tonight? Doing something? He said something, but I forgot.
I didn't even think about it.
Yeah. And then again, when I go through a few of the grits, just buff it. Since I'm going to put the paint on them, I read in a couple articles about this. A lot of people only sand it to about 220. Because after you sand them, you kind of prime them with a solution, and it kind of raises the grain anyhow. And then a lot of times I'll sand it and then put a little bit more of that solution on.
You put it back in the truck to sand it?
No, just kind of in my hand, and I use coarse, the green one, and just kind of knock the burrs off it. But if I was going to make an egg now, like the wooden ones without the finish on them, I just use the Beal 3-buff system and only use the wax, that Canobla wax that comes with it. And that's all that's on those wooden eggs, is the wax. It seems to work well. I didn't bring something a little pointy thing.
Turn one down.
Just to get in that hole to push that egg out. See, once they're in there and you got the end done, you can get the darn things out.
Need a long.
Maybe this will work. Oh yeah, this worked. Almost.
Down the broom handle.
I forgot. There. Come on. I got it. It's not a perfect egg, that's for sure, but that's the idea. But I think there's other things you could do in this way with maybe even a Saphir, but I don't know if you could do a Saphir. You probably
You
could.
tried to turn it, you could, like a ball.
Yeah.
I think you could.
That one didn't come out that great. The big end doesn't look right. You can tell right away when they don't look right. I could do another one, or we could just spend time playing with this, which is more fun. You can drop that. I got some eggs here that I made
Looks good to me.
in the last few days.
Careful, it's slippery.
And these are the ones that I've sanded after I put this solution on. After you get your turning done, and there's no finish on these now, I take and I put a pin in it so I can hang them. And then you mix up this alum solution with alum sulfate, which you buy, and you can brush it on or dip them in it, and I hang them up to dry. And maybe after half hour, an hour, you can kind of buff them a little bit, just with some of the very fine sandpaper or some of that Scotch-Brite, and then I'll paint a little bit more of that on. And that primer is required for the paints to stick when you dip it into the marbleizing paints. Otherwise, the paint won't really stick to the wood. It's kind of a primer, and when people marbleized many years ago, they marbleized material. The Turks, I guess they started this stuff like in the 1300s. And you know when you open up the inside of old books, how you see those pages with all that paint? That's marbling. The use of it in wood is something that few woodworkers are just trying, right? And even they used alum when they did paper, they'd paint the paper, or if they did material, they would soak it in this alum solution. And somehow it makes those paints go very fast to the material and not move. Because as soon as the paints get on that, you take it over to the sink, the paper, and they run water on it to rinse this kind of like wallpaper paste consistency off it. And I'll take these right after I dip them in the color, and I'll put them in a container of water and swish them off to wash them off, and paint doesn't come off. So it somehow goes into that alum solution.
And that was, you said that was kind of a 13th century Turkey kind of thing? So,
Ottoman Empire, I guess that's when it became big.
so that would make the material you're using, the primer, that would be alum.
lumpy, I guess. I don't know what they used, back then they used water and they used oil-based paints and the oil floated on the water. And that's, I didn't really go into much more detail. I just read some articles on it. You can get involved in this stuff and you can go forever.
Oh,
I'm sure.
The one that you did, you marbleized, it's real smooth. Is that the way it came out?
No, it doesn't come out that way. The paint's a bit rough.
So you sanded that
No,
one?
no, after I've dipped them in the paints and they dry for a couple days, just to what I let them do, I sprayed them with lacquer, clear lacquer, 2-3 coats, and then
Then you
back to
buff
the
that
Beal
one?
thing.
Okay. But you don't buff it, or you don't do anything to it unless you got it
I
clear?
found that, I tried that, and if you can buff them lightly, maybe with the diamond buff. Otherwise, it doesn't take much to take that paint off when you're buffing.
That makes
Well, all right, you lacquer them. Do you use any kind of abrasive between the coats and the lacquer?
Just spray can.
Okay.
I spray them, hang them up. I don't put it on very heavy. I might spray it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And then hang them up to dry, and then I come back with and buff them after. They don't dry very long, maybe an hour. They're ready to go.
Use three step buffalo.
Yep. It starts out with triple E, then the diamond, and then the wax. And it works well. They come out pretty.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. I got some pieces here that have dried after I've put them in just the paint. I put them in here just to show. Somewhere. They're in something. Unless I forgot to put it in, I never know.
You have pins in them?
Yeah, no, I got the ones with the pins.
Oh, okay.
I guess maybe I didn't put those in. Put like a little clothesline somewhere, or maybe I can just hang them up to this. Use that to thicken foods. It's in everything, milkshakes, everything, but it doesn't keep well. If I mix it up, you got to use it in 3-4 days a week, otherwise it spoils. And it's going to pour some of this into here. I'll use the big pour. And I'll pour it slowly because I don't want to make bubbles. But you mix this stuff up. I usually take a half a gallon of water and you put 35 grams in, which is, I guess I'm getting bubbles. I use about half of it, that's about it. And 35 grams I think is 3 tablespoons. But I happen to have a scale that weighs in grams, so it's quite easy to do. We'll let that sit just for a minute, get some of those bubbles out. And you can get the bubbles out just by dragging the paper over it. And they claim you should drag the paper over it anyway, just to relieve the surface tension. This will usually get the bubbles out. But I'll usually pour it in here and the night before or something too, but the bubbles don't usually bother. This could be messy, so. But none of it, it's only, everything's wash up. The chemicals aren't harmful. But I did bring myself some.
Looks like a good base for hot and sour soup.
You could, I bet, yeah. I bet they put that in there, maybe that's what makes it thick. When I was in the Navy, I was in on a base on the coast of California, and they used to harvest kelp. And they used to bring that kelp in and process it to make iodine and things like this carrageenan. And it was across the harbor. It was a big old factory. They used to steam this stuff. It was the most god-awful smell. When the wind was wrong, it was all over the town.
Where was it?
Oxnard.
Oxnard.
Yeah, Port Wanique. Yeah.
Port Unity.
Always remember the smell of that stuff. It's enough to everybody go, oh. So I wouldn't want to work there. The paints I use, I bought from that same